Hi, Algebra 2. Group A did not get a chance to work asynchronously. Our notes just went a little longer, so this was kind of my compromise. So watch this quick video and be paying attention because there'll be some chances for extra credit here. But I thought I would go through like the first couple on each page of the packet, so that way you kind of have an idea of what's being asked of you. We learned about the square root property today, which just means if you want to get rid of a squared, you should take the square root of both sides. And when you take that square root, you got to put a plus or minus symbol in front of it, okay? That's the square root property. So without further ado, let's look at the most recent packet, get some free answers, get some learning going on, and hopefully get some extra credit. So technology, let me turn on this. Okay, so here is, we took the notes. This is the back of the notes. It says to say which method you're going to use to solve this thing, and then go ahead and solve it. So let's just start with this first one. This first one has that flavor, ax squared, bx, c, but a, the very first number, is not 1. That's leading me to the x method. This first one will be an x method problem. We'll draw an x. We'll set it up. I'll set up, and then I'll let you guys finish it. So a 4x goes in the numerators. You multiply the first and last one. That goes in the top of our x. The middle one goes in the bottom of our x. Then we just have to find two numbers that multiply to the top, add to the bottom, and then we're off and running. We're factoring. Don't forget to set it equal to 0. I'm still seeing people do that. Don't do that. How about number 3? Number 3 is vertex form looking, right? That's what that kind of looks like. A, x minus h squared plus k. Remember that? It's been a while. But when we're solving these things, when it's just a single x being squared, we are going to use the square root property. Over here, there's an x squared and there's an x not being squared. I cannot do the square root property. Up here, an x being squared, and that's it. I can use the square root property. Over here, an x being squared and an x not being squared. I could not use the square root property. That's what we learned about. Okay, so let's actually solve this using the square root property. We need to get x by itself. So right now, by itself, I mean on one side of the equal sign. There's a bunch of stuff with it. There's a 2, there's a plus 5, and there's this squared. We have to get rid of those. We have to do the opposite operations to those, move them to the other side, and get x all by his lonesome. To do this, you need to be going in the right order. Reverse PEMDAS. So in this case, I'm going to start with this 2 that's on the outside. It says times 2. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2. Those would cancel, leaving me with x plus 5 squared equals 4. So far, so good. Next, I can't subtract 5 to the other side because it's being glued, it's being pinned down by these parentheses in this squared. That's because the squared needs to be the next one to get moved. So if it's squared, I can undo a squared by taking the square root of both sides. So I'm going to take the square root of 4, remembering I have to put a plus or minus symbol. Don't be that kid. There's going to be one kid that forgets to put that plus or minus symbol. Don't let it be you. Make it be someone else. Okay? The square root of 4 is actually 2. So we're left with x plus 5 equals plus or minus 2. Now we can move that 5 to the other side by subtracting 5 and subtracting 5. Those cancel each other out. X is all now by his lonesome. And I have a positive 2 minus 5, negative 3. And then negative 2 minus 5, negative 7, negative 3, negative 7. Those are our two answers. Here's your first chance for extra credit right on the bottom of this problem. If you write your first, last, and middle name across the bottom of this page, I will give you an extra credit point. If you don't have a middle name, just give me your first and your last name right across the bottom. Okay? I solved using the square root property. I'm supposed to mention that on here. So square root property. This one will be Holy Grail. This one will also be a square root property. All right. Let's go on to the next one. Next one is a little applications word problem. Okay, the zombie apocalypse is upon us. You're on top of a roof. It happens to be a 20-foot building. You're going to run and jump off and hopefully land on the back of a truck. Your height as a function of, here's our typo, how far away from the building you are, that should be an x, h of x, equals this right here. We want to figure out if you can make it. So let's answer these questions. The first one is, what is the y-intercept of your equation? Well, I can come up here. If I ever want a y-intercept, I plug in 0. If I plugged in 0, I'd be left with 20. Awesome. So now let's draw a sketch of our situation. If we know the y-intercept is 20, I'm up here getting ready to jump off the roof. It's a sad face, so I'm just going to do half of a sad face, and it looks something like that. Easy enough. Next, how high off the ground are you if you're 3 feet away from the building? Okay, X stands for how far away from the building you are, and I'm saying you're 3 feet away from the building. Well, guess what? You go plug in a 3. I'll let you guys do that. Don't forget your parentheses. I'm going to take out the X. I'm going to put in a parentheses, use a calculator, and get that figured out. There's going to be some decimals involved. That's okay. Next one says, how many feet will you have traveled horizontally? So I don't know what X is. What does X have to be if you're 5 feet off the ground? That's H. I'm telling you what H is. H is 5, and you need to work backwards and find X. So let's see what that looks like. I know H is 5 equals negative 0.3 X squared plus 20. Okay? Should look just like what we were solving on the other page. This is a square root property problem. Okay, so I'll get my calculator ready just in case. I need to get X by itself, so I'm going to subtract 20 to the other side. If I subtract 20 and subtract 20, I'm left with negative 15 equals negative 0.3 X squared. Next, I need to move this negative 0.3 to the other side. Don't be that kid. Someone just thought, ooh, you should add 0.3. No, you should not. This is multiplication. This says times negative 0.3. So I'm going to divide by negative 0.3 and divide by negative 0.3. If I do that, handy dandy calculator here, negative 15 divided by negative 0.3, we're left with just 50. Okay, so I'm going to get X squared equals 50. Last step is to take a square root of both sides. I'm going to take the square root of 50 and be left with plus or minus, jam it in my calculator again, the square root of 50 is 7.07. Now, in the context of the problem, there would be a negative 7.7 over here, but we're not jumping backwards, we're jumping forward. So in this case, we actually get to get rid of the negative 1. We don't need the negative 7.07. We just want positive 7.07 feet. That's how far we've traveled in the X direction when we are 5 feet off the ground. That's what we're talking about right there. Okay? The last little bit says, the bed of the truck is 3 feet high. Should you jump? Remember, the truck is 8 feet away. So what's happening on this one now? We want to know when you jump, how high are you when you're 8 feet away from the ground? Or not from the ground, 8 feet away from the building. So if I'm 8 feet away from the building, that's where the bed of the truck is, I want to see how high I am. If I'm above 3 feet, awesome, I'm going to land in the truck. If I'm less than 3 feet, I'm not going to make it in the truck and we're in trouble, zombie apocalypse. So you need to set your height equal to 3 feet high. We are 3 feet high. So 3 equals negative 0.3 X squared plus 20. Solve it the same way you just solved the other one. And we're rolling. Okay. Last one. Tried to be quick, but okay, it happened. We're learning here. I call these some quadratic randos. These are just some random skills you will need for the test. So let's start with the first one. The first one says to write this in intercept form. Intercept form. That's factoring. Okay, I could do the Holy Grail. That would be x plus 4 and x plus 3. That is intercept form. Good. Next, I want to find the roots for that. Well, the roots for that would be setting it equal to 0 and then solving it. Negative 4, negative 3. Awesome. Okay, now we're going to work backwards. Okay, here's your next chance for extra credit. If right now on the top of this page you write my initials, a K and an E, you get extra credit. Thank you for paying attention to the whole video. Coming back. I want to write a quadratic in intercept form. So again, it's going to look like this one. But I want roots to be 4 and negative 2. So this has to be the sign flip thing. I'm going back from the root back to the factors. So if 4 is a root, x minus 4 is a factor. If negative 2 is a root, x plus 2 is a factor. And there it is. There's a quadratic in intercept form that has those roots. Awesome. Finally then, write a quadratic in standard form that has roots 4 and negative 2. So here's intercept form. We want to know what it looks like in standard form. You know what you need to do? You need to multiply them. First, outer, inner, last. You need to FOIL, and that will be your answer for that one. Okay, I'm going to help you with 5 then. 5 says find a quadratic in standard form, what we just did, that has roots 4 and negative 2, what you just did, but whose leading coefficient is 3. That means you're going to have some answer from the one above, blah, 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 and you want the very first number to be a 3. So you're just going to times everything that you got on that previous one by 3. Awesome. Number 6, write all solutions to the equation. I would set this equal to 0. I would set this equal to 0, this equal to 0, this equal to 0, and then solve them. Good. Finally, last one. Write an equation and solve it to help you find the dimensions of a rectangle that has an area of 16. Okay, the area of a rectangle is length times width. Easy enough. Keep going on. It says the area is 16 and whose length is 2 more than 3 times its width. Let's turn that into a math sentence. The length is 2 more than 3 times the width. So there's 3 times the width, and I want 2 more than that, plus 2. So my length equals this. My width just equals my width, W. And now if I times these two things together, length times width, I get the area. So I'm going to times 3W plus 2, 3W plus 2. I'm going to times that by W, and that will be equal to the area. Well, the area is 16 meters, or square, or whatever it is. I didn't give you units, but it's 16. So now we can solve this. We've got to figure out what W is. So I'm going to distribute 3W squared plus 2W. I'm going to subtract the 16 over and get minus 16 equals 0. Look familiar? Sure it is. It's an X method problem. Go ahead and finish solving this by setting up the X method and factoring, and then set your factors equal to 0. 3 answers coming at you. Hopefully you got that extra credit. I will see you guys. I'll answer any questions, and I'll give you some time to work on this next time I see you. Peace. Moving on.